This is the Lemokey L5 HE 8K. I almost want to put an AI on the end just because everything's AI these days. It's a 75% layout with a full metal body, 8,000 hertz polling rate, 32,000 hertz scan rate, which all sounds excellent, but that's not all. What's special about this keyboard is the switches. It's got Hall effect magnetic switches with rapid trigger, 0.14 millisecond latency, and a customizable actuation point as low as 0.01 millimeters. Oh, and yes, it has double shot PBT keycaps, not ABS. Now, all of that doesn't come cheap though. This comes in at $200. The unboxing experience is good. Decent quality, sturdy box, and the inside supports the board with dense foam, so I definitely am confident it'll be protected in shipping. We get a USB-C to C cable with a C to A adapter on one end, and I'm actually glad it comes with a C to C cable instead of an A to C cable. We then get a tool. This is a keycap remover and a switch puller. We then get two screwdrivers, a Phillips and a hex, and then we get some spares. For whether you want to top mount or gasket mount the board, well, then you can do that. And finally, we get the board itself. So the first thing that struck out to me was just how heavy this board is. This thing is solid metal construction, and it makes my now aging Corsair K70 TKL feel like a puff of wind would just send it floating out of the window. This thing seriously weighs a ton. What I do love though is just how simple the design is. It's a matte black, clutter-free design with good spacing between the number keys and function keys. Now, being a 75% board, we are obviously missing the number pad, but we also lose the 9 navigational keys. Well, some of them at least. Instead, delete is now found above backspace, right between F12 and the volume wheel. And under the volume wheel, we then have home, page up, and page down. Now, I personally use home and end all the time, so the omission of the end key was kind of annoying, but you can just remap everything in the editor later. So I ended up remapping page up to end. We also still have the directional keys, which are nicely offset to the bottom right as well. The volume wheel knob is not a stepless design, so yes, you do feel the steps, which I actually like, and pressing it down mutes it too. But whilst you can remap the actual function of twisting the knob to left or right as any key you want, you can't remap the mute button, which is kind of annoying because that's the one thing I would have wanted to map. I'd want to keep it volume up and down, but maybe I want the press to be another function. And that's the only thing on this board you can't remap. Lifting the board up reveals the angle of the board, which I actually personally like. No more flimsy plastic feet here, which get in the way or fall over. It's like when you move it and stuff, it's annoying. Instead, it's just a set angle, and I actually quite like it. We also get an angled green accent on the back too, surrounded by an RGB LED bar. And whilst I like the angled back piece, it does mean that your USB-C cable kind of sticks outward and up, which is kind of annoying instead of just laying flat on your desk. So it's a bit of an eyesore for me. Not really sure about that. They could have kept that angled bit and then just recessed the C port so that it sat like straight, but whatever. No pass through here either though. This is just a one USB-C port and a switch. Now this switch lets you go from 1000, 2000 or 8000 hertz polling rate just by sliding that switch. But on that, I was surprised to see that there's no manual inside the box. I don't know if that's because I've got like a review sample or what, but yeah, there's no manual with this thing. Now you will have seen by now that we've got transparent modifier keycaps, and whilst I don't dislike them, I do kind of find them a little bit out of place to look at personally, even though I love transparent stuff. Like I like the look of it, and the more I'm using this, the more I like it. But immediately I was just a bit like, I don't know. I would personally have loved to have seen all of the transparent caps instead be like that beautiful escape key in the top left, but that's just me. The majority of the keycaps are double shot PBT, so they're going to be super durable, but these ones aren't like normal PBT caps I've encountered. They're not textured at all. So they're like completely smooth, and they kind of feel a bit more like ABS, but better. However, those transparent ones are not double shot, and I'm assuming that they are ABS and not PBT, but I could be wrong. They have a glossy feel, and I do find it a little bit weird compared to the rest of it. It kind of makes it a little bit out of place in terms of feel, and I'm not overly fond of the painted font on these transparent ones either, because you can definitely feel it. Again, I just kind of wish they were double shot and green like that escape key. Now, typing then. This was really weird for me at first because I've never used Hall effect switches on a keyboard before, but it's really smooth. We still get a satisfying like clack or more like a clonk, but the switches themselves are so smoothly consistent all throughout the press. It's a really strange feeling, and I personally found it quite satisfying. Typing is fast, super responsive out of the box, but my only issue, which isn't an issue with the board itself, but instead a regional one, is that they sent me a US ANSI layout instead of a UK ISO one. So I'm used to a smaller left shift key with a backslash directly to the right of it and a much larger enter key, whereas obviously this is a US layout. So we've got a much larger left shift and a smaller enter key with a backslash directly above that. So I kept hitting that instead of enter, which is really annoying. But, you know, regardless, this is besides the point. This has nothing to do with the actual thing. It's just I got sent the wrong layout. So, you know, they do sell US or UK layout. So just make sure you purchase the right one. And despite this, I'm actually enjoying my typing experience on the board, just stock, with the stock actuation out of the box. Now, since this board weighs more than my 40-kilo dog, there's absolutely zero flex whatsoever. It immediately feels premium when typing and gaming. Now, it does also come gasket mounted out of the box, but they do give you everything you need if you want to, you know, swap it over for a top mount or whatever. You get the silicone strips and sockets and beans and stuff. You get everything that you want. But I just left it as it was because personally I liked it straight out of the box. I didn't really see the need to, like, you know, mess with it. Now let's talk briefly about the software. There isn't any. Okay, thanks, bye. Now I actually like this because I'm fed up of having 20 different softwares on every single peripheral, and if you have a bunch of stuff from different manufacturers, you end up having like so much software that can cause conflicts and stuff. It's just so frustrating. So instead they've just got a web page based editor, which does mean you always need an internet connection, but I mean, come on, unless you're using Windows XP, I imagine you've got an internet connection because you're watching this video. But anyway, here you can change key actuation points as low as 0.01 millimeters, set rapid trigger for repeated input travel, remap keys, like you can set 2 actions to 1 press. Like there's so much stuff you can do here. Macros, change the polling rate, make profiles, change the RGB. There's just loads of stuff you can do here. Now onto the gaming. Now obviously the thing I was most excited for was trying this out with the analog mode for the like Hall switches. And it doesn't disappoint. Playing racing games actually becomes viable when using a keyboard now, letting you actually feather the throttle. But it did take me a while to get used to because I'm so used to just standard switches where it's just a digital input where you just press it all the way, right? So you have to like consciously think about what your fingers are doing. And this obviously goes for like being able to walk in games too, instead of having to hold like left shift or whatever it is to like walk in most games. But you know, it's pretty cool. With some serious tweaking in the editor, you'll be able to dial in crazy settings specifically for any game you want. But I am going to say I would still probably just reach for a controller for racing games. So what do I think then? I mean, I'll start with the bad stuff. There's no angle adjustment, which might be an issue for some, but I actually quite liked the angle. I'm not a big fan of the transparent keys and the keycaps there and the strangely angled up USB port on the back edge. Plus, you know, it took a little while getting used to those analog inputs in games. If I'm honest, like I said, I would still reach for a controller for racing games at least. But for like first-person shooters and stuff, this is wicked. And the actuation points are so quick. You'll be able to pick stuff up or do whatever like so fast, which is a big selling point of this board. But, you know, ultimately, I think the Lemokey, which I keep thinking says Lemokey L5 HE 8K, throw in the AI in there as well, is a great board. It's absolutely rock solid. This thing has a ton of customization with different mounting options, actuation points, and crazy high polling rate. The Hall effect switches actually surprised me by just how nice they were to type on once you get used to it, and the satisfying clack that you get as well. Like, it's just a really nice board. The analog response in games is a nice touch. So all in all, it feels super high quality, and I would say it is worth $200 asking price if you're in the market for a super high-end customizable Hall effect board, which, you know, is going to future-proof you for potential, you know, use in future games or whatever. Just seems like this is where keyboards might be leaning towards in the future. Overall, nice one, Keychron. I actually liked it. There you go. Wicked. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, like this video, subscribe, become a member, and you can see these videos early. I want to know your thoughts. Have you ever used a Hall effect keyboard or any of these kind of boards before? I definitely haven't, and I used to like test keyboards for a living, which is crazy. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and stick around for more videos. Watch our podcast, check out the news, do all the good stuff that you do, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.